Welcome to the Humans of Hospitality podcast. I know so many of you listening to this show love your local bar, your local restaurant, maybe your local hotel, and have so many fond memories of time in hospitality businesses. This is the podcast where we get to chat to the human beings behind the scenes of that industry. Maybe the chefs or the bakers or the coffee roasters or the gin distillers or the craft brewers or the entrepreneurs, but all doing an amazing job of making sure that hospitality stays interesting and the big, dull, formulaic brands do not take over our high street. Please enjoy the show. In this week's conversation, we are chatting to Mr. William Curley. And when it comes to chocolatier-patissiers, William Curley is literally a world-class player. He is one of only 7 chefs in the United Kingdom to have achieved Master of Culinary Arts. And the chance to earn this accolade, which is the culinary equivalent of a Nobel Prize, only comes round every 4 years. And it took William 3 attempts. Commitment and grueling, as you will hear. Now, perhaps it's not surprising that William has done so brilliantly, since as well as having natural talent, he's fostered that talent by working with some of the very best. From the moment he became an apprentice at Gleneagles, followed by stints with acclaimed chefs such as Pierre Koffmann, Anton Edelmann, Raymond Blanc, and Marco Pierre White. Now, you might think that working with big personalities and big brands, Harrods, Claridges, the Savoy, I could go on, would have gone to William's head. But not a bit of it. As you'll hear, William is delightful, down to earth, and humbled by the fact he was able to crowdfund his latest venture, his very own boutique shop in the heart of Soho. This means he can continue to be hands-on, creating amazing chocolates and chocolate-patissiers. Be warned, your mouth is going to water during the course of this conversation, but we are going to learn so much. I very much hope you enjoy it. William Curley, thank you so much for sparing the time to have a chat with me today. It's really appreciated.
You're welcome. It's great to be here.
So can you just explain? I like to always set the scene before I start because this is an audio thing, so people will be driving their cars or walking their dogs or doing the washing up.
As you do. Yeah.
We've got a stunning view, but not normally my countryside view. Do you mind just setting the scene? Where are we in the world?
Yes, we're on the 38th floor in the Gherkin building in the city of London, and we're at the window here looking out into the great city that London is.
It's not too shabby. I will put a photo up on the on the podcast page. But yeah, what a great city. And you've been here a while.
I've been...
not in this room.
Well, not in this room, no, but I've been in London over 25 years. So I guess, although I'm very proud to be Scottish, I have become, I guess, a Londoner by default.
Amazing. So I'm looking forward to going into your career of what you do now, and you've got some amazing kind of track records, and it's a real privilege. And God, I've got hats off to you for that. I appreciate how hard you'll have worked. But before we get there, I just want to go to what the trigger points were. So your first memories of getting into cooking, what was the trigger? I understand you used to cook with Granny a bit.
Yes,
I think,
my grandmother. Yes. So my father was a dock worker, and my mother worked for British Gas. And at the weekends, we were shuffled off, myself and my sister, that is, to my grandmother's house, and she loved baking. When she'd been younger, she worked in a private house as a chef or a baker. So we made things like Dundee cakes, Madeira cakes, scones, Swiss rolls, lots and lots of millionaire shortbread. We made a lot of coconut bars, and we did lots of things with her, which, at the time it was like, I'm cooking with Granny, sort of, I guess, pretending not to be really excited about it, but I used to actually really enjoy, whether it was licking the bowl or mixing something or helping her whisk egg whites to put into, or to make a meringue, So it was all kind of there at the beginning, but it was something. I never planned to be a chef, if that makes sense. Like many young boys, I got to 15, 16 with very little qualifications. I drifted through school, and I really had the choices of going to a technical college or a YTS scheme, and I took the technical college in principle to do woodwork.
Okay.
And when I arrived there, I went to the woodwork class, and looked over my shoulder and I saw a class of 15 girls doing cooking, and I thought, oh my gosh, that looks absolutely fabulous. The cooking that was.
Brilliant. Yeah, of course.
And I went there, and that really was the beginning, if you like.
Really? Wow. God, so if that room had been full of boys, then that could have been a very different life.
I've placed there in the woodwork class.
You'd have made out of wood. You could have been carving ships or something like that. So, okay. So literally from school then, you pretty much went straight into it?
Straight into it, yeah. And it's funny, at no point have I ever looked back and thought to myself, gosh, I wish I went down a different route. I've always been really happy, really excited. You know, I've taken a career path that at no point have I ever regretted. I've always really enjoyed this. So I never look and think, I wish I had been this. I wish I'd been a chippy or a carpenter. It's never really happened. So it's just quite, unusual, I guess.
It is, particularly in hospitality, because I think the compromise you make in this industry is it can be really anti-social hours. It's hard work. It's a lot of work in nights and weekends when you're in the kitchen in those early days. So I think there's enough people who've looked out of their windowless hot box in the kitchen and thought, my God, why am I doing this?
I think absolutely. I think when you're young, in the very beginning, I mean, I became an apprentice at Gleneagles Hotel when I was 17, and that was really, very raw then. I specialised in pastry very quickly. That was an option that was given to me as part of my apprenticeship. But I can remember doing split shifts, always 5 days a week, but occasionally 6 days. And of course, you've got friends back home they've got jobs, but they're living for the weekends, the Friday nights, etc. And you're working a lot of weekends, because weekends are obviously the busy times, particularly in hotels. So you're thinking, oh gosh, I can go back in and have a good time. But I don't know, I really enjoyed it. And I lived in there, which is really exciting. When you're 17 years old, you've left Scotland twice in your life, and you go to a big hotel, it's full of young people, it's exciting, you're learning. It was good times.
That's a really fast trajectory to go straight into Gleneagles. How did you get that so young?
Yeah, that did. In my little journey, many opportunities and openings have came to me, and that would be one. So I did a course at Gleneagles Technical College, which was an Old City and Guilds course. That was for a year and a half, 2 years, and at the end of it, we're put out in a placement. An idea with the placement is to give you somewhere to train, and hopefully they'll take you on as a job, to start your career. And I was put out to St Andrews, which isn't that far, where I live, to the Old Course Hotel, and I spent my sort of 2 months, internship, if you like, there. And then at the end, they offered me a job, and I thought, this is fantastic. But the job was only going to be till October, because the hotel was going to close because they were doing renovations, etc., and reopen again in the spring. And I thought, well, okay, I'll take that. That's a job. My dad's happy I've got a job. Keep him sweet. And of course, he had reservations about what I was doing. I guess, in that world, manual, dock, tough. An amazing bloke, my father was, but cooking didn't, was that a route for his laddie, if you like. Yeah. And of course, the listeners can't see, but I've not got, my father was a very strong-built man. I mean, I've got little chicken arms here. So it probably wasn't the route I was going to go anyway, but I always remember there was reservations there. But he was very happy that I'd got a job and I was getting paid and I was getting on in life. That was kind of fundamental to him. But when I was at the Old Course, they said to me, what we can do for you, however, Willie, we can organise you a job somewhere else during that period and then come back to the Old Course. And that's going to be at Gleneagles Hotel. So I went to Gleneagles. They said, that's great, we can organise that for you, but you could, if you want, look at an apprenticeship. So I sort of, hummed and hawed and thought, what should I do? Went back to the Old Course, and the chef there was called Billy Campbell. And I always remember going to speak to him. And before I'd even sat down, he goes, you want to go Gleneagles full-time and be an apprentice? I said, I do. He said, why don't you do that? And, I thought, fair play, because he could have been selfish and said, look, you need to come back, we've agreed to do this. But he thought that was a better route for me, get a foundation in what I do, get training in what I do, and really give me a platform to build a little career. So
good. I think that's a good thing sometimes in hospitality, is it's a human-based industry. Very much. I think we get it. It's kind of like, look, go and live a great life, live a good life and fulfill your potential. Yeah,
so. And I have people that work for me and I want them to spend a chunk of time with me. If someone comes for 3-4 months, it's kind of pointless. If someone spends 18 months, 2 years, and they feel they need to go on the next part of their journey, I want to wish them well, and I want to thank them for that, because that's a chunk of time they spent with me. Now, some people stay longer, which is amazing, but realistically, you have to be unselfish in our industry and let people, go on that journey, because I think in that way, there's nothing worse than someone not being happy in what they do. And also other people in your team will see that you've given the opportunity for them to move on, and you can always help them as well on that journey. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and invariably, if it's meant to be, people come back later on, and the more they've learned while they're away, the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the trajectory then was the Savoy next, or did that come a little bit later?
There was a fair bit in the middle.
There was a few bits in between.
Yeah. So I spent my 3 years apprenticeship at Gleneagles. I used to go through to Glasgow College of Food and Technology on one of my days off. And then I got to the sort of ripe old age of 20, and I decided that my apprenticeship was going to finish and I needed to go and see the world. And I think by now I'd left Scotland maybe 4 times. But I'd been told, and this is the early 90s, that where you need to go to work in the best establishments, because by now I'd really got the kind of cooking bug. I was very determined, and I wanted to be the best at what I could do, and I wanted to work in the very best places to do that. And Gleneagles had, very much that. The pastry chef then was a chap called Ian Ironside, and Ian's passed away now. But Ian, helped give me a lot of the foundation of having my work today, a lot of that base. And he had been the head patissier at the Savoy many, many years beforehand. So it was kind of amazing, I did go on, obviously, to become the chef patissier at the Savoy, to kind of, square that box off, that there was a kind of link there, someone who trained me initially, and that's where I went. But he had said to me that, go to France. And there was no Google, there was no internet like there is today. So I went into Perth on my split shift. I bought a Michelin guide, because I'd heard Michelin restaurants, 2 3-star restaurants, it's where you need to go and work. So I thought, right, I'm going to go away and do this. So I got this guide for France. I think at the time there was 17, 18, 3 Michelin star restaurants, or certainly in the cities in Paris, in France. And I wrote off all my letters. I spoke very little, if any, French at that point, and I got airmail paper, and I went and wrote these letters. I got one response, which started with a no, and I thought, gosh, that's not going well. But not to be, not back. I got back up, and I contacted some people who knew people in Belgium, and before I knew it, I was on a plane off to Brussels to work in a 3 Michelin star restaurant just outside Brussels, in a little town called Hulart, and the restaurant was called Pierre Romier, Maison de Bouche. And I spent a season, best part of a year, working in the pastry kitchen there. It was very, very, exciting. It was a total diversion of Gleneagles. So Gleneagles was a very grand hotel, very, very traditional, which I like tradition. I think that's very important, especially when you're training. But although there may have been about 15 chaps and chapettes in the pastry kitchen, we were doing banquets for a few hundred. There was private rooms, there was afternoon teas, there was breakfasts, boulangerie, there was petit fours, there was ice creams, cakes, biscuits, you name it, bedroom amenities. It was a very, very busy, bustling place, doing a lot of things. At Maison de Bouche, we were catering for 40 for lunch, 60 for dinner, and there was 4 or 5 guys in the pastry kitchen. It was a complete different world. Everything was, in search of perfection. And I'd never experienced this before. And I was really, really excited how, there was so much time and effort put into every single aspect of what was being served to the customer. And I loved this. So I set about, I enjoyed my work there. I learned a lot there. I did go to hope to learn French, but they spoke Flemish. No. But they were really kind.
Not quite as useful.
Yeah, but it was an amazing place, and I always remember how kind they were to me. I actually lived in the little town in Hulart on my Todd, and we were off on Monday, so we worked on a Sunday lunch and we're closed Sunday evening. But Mr. Romier gave me a key to the restaurant, so on a Monday I could go to the restaurant and help myself to have a bit of lunch.
Wow,
and
really?
I just think, wow, I look back at that now and I think how kind that really was. It was incredible, really. I left there and I decided that I was going to come to London. This was where it was happening, I guess. This is the early 90s. Pierre Koffmann at La Tante Claire was probably at the time the restaurant to come to. He had just received 3 Michelin stars. So I got the night bus back from Brussels. I went to work with Mr. Koffmann. I spent the next 3 years there at Le Temps Clair in Chelsea. I went there really just as, I guess, a commis patissier. I worked my way up in his kitchen, and I left as his head patissier. An amazing restaurant. We did absolutely everything. Of course, we did the breads. We did all our own, how would I put it? Every aspect of everything we'd done. If we're going to have confit orange on a dish or on petit fours, we'd confit the orange ourselves. If we're going to use fondant in a dish, we made our own fondant, we made our own marzipan. Everything was made at Mr. Koffmann's. There was nothing, no shortcuts. There was no half-made ingredients. Everything was very, very raw and very true. And I loved his philosophy, and everything would come in on the day, ingredient-wise, and within a day or two, it was all sold to the customer. Very fast-moving, very clean, very natural. And this really, I guess, was where I always look, where I guess it became a boy to a man, if you want. And just, I guess, not only that, living in London, it was kind of fast and furious, and it was very, very exciting.
Because you ended up working with Marco Pierre White, with Raymond Blanc, but
yes.
was it Pierre Koffmann that had the greatest impression
on you? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and to this day, I still keep in contact with Mr. Koffmann. He's been a massive supporter, a great influence in what I do, and I think those years there really, whereas Gleneagles with Ian and Pierre Ramier gave me that beginning and that, it got me focused on where I wanted to be. I think the time at Le Temps Clair really, helped evolve me. It gave me that structure. It gave me a real direction and purpose with where I wanted to go and what I wanted to be. And I guess it was at that period, at that time, that I also decided that one day I wanted to have my own little shop, if you like. And I always remember on a Friday evening, there was a night bus at the time. There was no Eurostar initiative at that time, or it was just beginning. I actually don't think Eurostar was in motion at this time. And I used to get the night bus from Victoria to Paris on a Friday quite often, maybe once every other month I'd go and look at patisserie shops in Paris and just walk the streets during a Saturday. I was, I guess, pretty tired when I went. I was kind of living off sugar. So guys at that time, Pierre Hermé was at Fauchon, Jean-Paul Hevin, Christian Constant, just walking around getting inspiration. And I didn't really know where it was going to go and what it was, what the journey was, but I knew that was something I really liked and I'd like to try to do one day. I had no idea how to do it, of course, but I had something in my mind. And I guess you're right, I then went to work with Raymond Blanc at La Mama Cassizon. I went to work with Marco for a number of years. That for me, I knew where my journey was going now. How it was going to get there, I didn't really know at that time, but it was giving me that foundation. And I also spent a season at Marc Minot in Burgundy, who ironically enough is one of the chefs that I wrote to when I was at Gleneagles, because I won a little scholarship, the William Heppenstall Scholarship, and that gave me that opportunity. Wow,
it's an incredible journey with some top class chefs. I'm sure a lot of people listening will have no idea. I mean, the pastry chefs, patissier, the chocolate kind of stuff, the level of detail anyway in any kitchen, the kind of pastry is always where the detail happens and the precise. I can't imagine in a 3 Michelin star restaurant just the level of attention and love.
Yeah.
But can you just explain a little bit about why is that part of the kitchen so technical?
Well, I guess what we do, and this is one of the reasons I love what we do. You've got a mixture of science and art put together. So if you're going to make a beautiful pâte sucrée or a beautiful pâte brisée, feuilletage, you've got to follow the recipe correctly, because if you don't, it's not going to work. It's knackered. So then you have this beautiful puff pastry, and then you're going to do a lovely fresh millefeuille. You're going to put some fresh crème pâtissier, maybe a little bit of, some framboise jam that you've made, and some fresh berries between the layers. When you execute this and when you cut this, you've got to do this really, really well to make it beautiful, whether it's in a restaurant, whether it's in a shop. So you can make this great puff pastry and follow the recipe incredibly well, but if you don't execute it well, it'll look really rough and ragged. And then the customer thinks, gosh, that's not worth £7.50 or £10 or whatever you're going to sell it. So you have this pressure. You have to make things look and execute really, really well. So I guess in what I do, you're always looking for the artistic qualities to come to the fore. But fundamentally, if you've not made your pastry right or your custard right or your chocolate mousse right, it's not going to taste great. Then no one's going to come back again. So you have a bit of pressure there to get it together. I'm not saying in cooking you don't have that, but I think that you've got a little bit more. The boundaries are a little bit looser if you want in cuisine.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. Yeah, the stress of noticing that your your dessert's not set just pre-service is different to to the fact that the steak needs another couple of minutes to rest.
It's a different
more
scale,
forgiving,
isn't it? Yeah,
so,
and I think what fascinates me behind patisserie and chocolate is. When I grew up, I didn't realise that was a profession. I presumed initially I was going to be a chef. And even when I'd been at the college, there was an old baker, Dave Bryson his name was, and there was another chap with Scott Lyle. They put loads and loads of time and effort into helping me evolve and I guess training what I was the journey I was about to embark on. And when I was at the college, I worked in a little restaurant with Scott Lyle doing desserts. And with Dave at the college, we used to do lots of great bakery items, your millefeuille, eclairs, etc. But I didn't realise, really until I went to Gleneagles, this was actually a profession within, the whole umbrella of cooking. But when you actually look at patisserie and chocolate work, it's massive. There's so many different journeys within it, specialising within. When I was at the Savoy, we had about half a dozen different sections. So we would have, obviously, restaurants where you had desserts. There was a petit four section. There was a tourée section where you'd make all the different pastes and pâtes and line quiches and line flans and tarts, etc. And then savoury items, roulades and cheese straws and what have you. There's also an ice cream section. And there was also an artistic section where you'd be doing chocolate and sugar sculptures. There's so many different facets to what we do. It's quite incredible, really.
It is. And you ended up as the, you were the youngest chef patissier at the Savoy, 21 people in your brigade, was it?
Yeah. I was just turning, I think, 28 when I arrived at the Savoy, and there was 21 guys in the team. And
that must have been very different going then from just the cooking, because then all of a sudden you're managing a team, you've got that responsibility.
Yeah.
How was that change?
Complete different set of skills. And of course, when you arrive, and it was a time also, I worked, under the chef de cuisine, Anton Edelmann, who was incredibly, probably in many ways as much as Mr. Koffmann, but he certainly was very supportive, helped me on the journey, probably taught me a new set of skills, maybe skills that I had to work harder to achieve than maybe just raw cooking, because fundamentally I'm a little cook. I like to get on with it and cook and get my hands dirty. Man management's a complete different skill. I'm sure it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Hugely.
And Anton was incredible at that. He knew how to get the best out of people. He knew some people you had to encourage with a hand on the shoulder. Some people you could maybe raise the voice slightly, let's say. And I learned a lot from him. And I think when I arrived at the Savoy, I was maybe not the typical sort of head patissier in that type of, more corporate world, if you like. The hotels are much more corporate than restaurants. In restaurants, more often than not, it's the chef that owns the restaurant, so you report into him. He's your chef, he's the boss. It's it. There's one man in charge here. In a large hotel, you have lots of layers of bureaucracy, and it's a much more complex, operation. I think under Anton, at the Savoy during that time, it worked for me. I think to go back into that corporate world in hotels now would be even much more tougher, I guess. Yeah.
Is the management style, because kitchens have a reputation as being hot and angry. I think it's changing a little bit. Maybe not
I think for the good. I think there was an era where things would go too far. I think there's a nice balance in things, but they do need. A kitchen needs energy, and you've got to create that energy one way or the other, and hence why you do get things that can reach boiling point.
Was it different in the pastry section anyway? Was it a bit calmer because it tends to be a longer
and I
process?
think so. It's also quite often in a pastry kitchen, just due to what we make, we want it to be a little bit cooler.
Yeah,
so we don't want to be rolling puff pastry beside an incredibly hot stove. Yeah. So and I think temperature can fray, people's temperatures and. You can get yourself incredibly wound up in a very hot kitchen. There's no question about that. I think in what I do, it's a bit more balanced and a bit more, less aggravated.
Yeah, well, it's a very precise part of the kitchen, I think, isn't it? So I would presume it can't be as hot-headed.
Yeah, I think what I do know as you get older, I think, you can shout at people if you like, but I think you can lose them really quickly. I think there's a way to go about things. Now, ultimately, I employ quite a few people, and you need to get the best out of them. But running around the kitchen, just shouting at, swearing at everyone, I don't think that's the way forward.
No, and I think it put a lot of people off coming into the kitchens, and we might come to that a little bit more with the sort of work you're doing on the next generation. But before we do, so what prompted you then to go off on your own? I think it was about 2004, was it?
Yes,
something like that? What was the trigger?
The trigger, I guess I'd been, best part of 5 years at the Savoy. And that was actually really hard to leave the Savoy. I think that was coming, my journey there I'd done my work there, if you like. I think like in all, we all know when it's time to move on quite often. Except when it's your own business.
You
can't ever move on, But I loved the history of the Savoy. There was something very unique about it, and I think with the link with Ian, and it was a very special place for me. So to leave was quite hard, and I can always remember, taking my trolley and my box with my equipment and my knives and going. I was kind of quite sad that day. I always remember that. But my new journey was to be my own boss, I guess, and to do my own thing. And I thought about leaving London. I actually went to look at opportunities in New York, which I quite liked. And I was quite keen at one point to go there. And I also looked at potentially going to Singapore, which I liked, but it was a bit too hot and humid for me, which I decided that wasn't going to work. But when it all came down to it, I wanted to stay in London, and I think that's where I kind of built my little reputation. That's where my career had evolved, and I thought this is the right place for me to stay. So at the time, with my first wife, Suzu, we embarked on opening a little business, a little shop, and I guess that was the dream. It was, it was where I wanted to be, and we found a fabulous little shop on Pave Court in Richmond upon Thames, where we were able to, I guess, do what I think was a good deal at the time to have a little boutique. We had a kitchen upstairs, the retail shop downstairs, and off we went selling chocolates and patisserie. And it was very, very exciting. And that ran, for, about 12 years. And it had lots of more ups and downs, I guess, but the business evolved in many different ways, but that was the beginning of it all, yeah.
Okay, so those most businesses in hospitality fail. Most of them do. Most of them fail in the first 2 years.
Of course they do. Yes.
So that must have been very different, going from being in sort of in other people's businesses. What was those first couple of years like? Was that
tough? Yeah. I mean tough, because I think when you open a little retail outlet, and it still is today, my business is very much made up of loyal customers and them spreading the word. Advertising is not something I've ever done. PR, we get our little fair share of it. But, if you really want to build your customer base up, it's all about interacting with customers. It's all about them buying a box of chocolates to take to their friends, and then them loving it, and then saying, I need to buy William Curley chocolates, or I need to go there to get a chocolate cake, or, a sacher tort, whatever it's going to be. That is the, that's fundamental, if you like. That's kind of key to what we do. When I started out, I had a little bit of consultancy work, which probably helped prop me up. But we just built a good following in Richmond, and it kind of worked.
Yeah, well done. And one of the big changes there must have been complete creative freedom, although I suppose you had that to an extent because you were at the top of your game. But did that create anything interesting? Sort of, what did you do with it? What did you do differently once you were your own boss?
You're actually 100% right. I work for incredible, talented chefs, but at the end of the day, it's their restaurant, or they're the head chef at the Savoy, and they will have their style that they want to run through their food. Now, of course, the older you get and the more experience you get, they leave you more to things. They speak with you. You'll be involved in, the new menu, the new petit four selection, whatever it's going to be. There's always, your input, but it's never 100% you. You're the pastry chef. It's, you can sit as high up as you want in your profession. You can be in charge of the patisserie, but fundamentally, you're always going to report into someone in that environment. When you open your own little boutique, it is you 100%. So finding, I guess your style, what your skills that you've learned, the foundation you've got, ultimately in food, I always think when you eat someone's cakes, chocolates in a restaurant, what have you, you're eating that chef's food, that embodies his personality. That is what he believes in. I mean, the one thing Mr. Koffmann always said to me is he serves what he likes to eat, and I do exactly the same. So I really look at what we sell as chocolates, cakes, biscuits, what have you, that I like to eat, and I hope my customers enjoy that as well. Over the journey of time, we've evolved a lot of things. I think you go in a little bit of a circle. I guess the older I get, I become more classic, and I'm more comfortable in simplicity. When you're younger, you want to try to marry many, many flavours and combinations together, which, is quite normal and quite exciting. But now I look at things and, if we're going to do, a new chocolate, say we've got an apricot and wasabi chocolate, which is, quite unusual, but we keep it very fresh, very natural. We just take some fresh apricots, we make a puree, then we make a little pâte de fruits, a little jam, and then we infuse a little bit of wasabi with the chocolate and place that on the top, and we coat that. And that's maybe as complex as I'll be. I think that's got quite a lot going on, but you really fundamentally, you've got this flavour of chocolate, apricot, wasabi, and that's it. I don't need any more in the chocolates. And some of the chocolates that we have, we've got a little Japanese black vinegar chocolate, which I adore, but that's just a little bit of black vinegar with the chocolate. It's very simple. And I think simplicity sometimes is, you get more confident, I guess, and feel more at ease at what you do.
Yeah. Well, it's nice, actually. I was having a look at your website last night, and I liked the sort of juxtaposition between your nostalgic range, where you had your Jaffa cake and your millionaire shortbread, and it was nice to kind of go, okay, you don't take yourself too seriously. I'm sure it's doing a twist on those, but then you've got your incredibly extravagant. And it was nice to see that you still do both, because I've had a number of chefs work in my team, and you do. It is just a phase. You have the very young, very hungry chefs who overcomplicate food, and then they do go through that stage. And then there's always that challenge of, do you sell what the customer wants to buy or what you want to make? And they're not always the same thing.
And that's tough. At the end of the day, we'll have to be commercial in some form. And it is important that you're right. You have to make products that people will buy. I mean, one of the biggest chocolates that we sell is sea salt caramel. And I quite like our sea salt caramel. But is it my favourite chocolate? No chance. It's but that's being sensible as well, because, you can ignore a lot of your customer base, and you've got to think about that too.
You've got to, at the end of the day, businesses have got to make money, haven't they? That's the way it is. So our most, biggest selling dish has always been the burger. Always has been for 15 years in every restaurant. Yes. Is it the one that we want to sell and that we want to shout about? No, we have it there because we know people will buy it, and it's a similar.
And if not, they'll go somewhere else. So you've got to think about
that. But if you're going to do it, just make it really bloody good, and
absolutely
get the very best ingredients, and don't do too much with them. So where does that inspiration come from now then around flavours, and also where do you source your chocolate from, and what's the story as to why?
So flavour-wise, everything's got to be fresh, natural, no preservatives, no additives, no colourings, no compounds. If we do a mint chocolate, we'll use fresh mint, so we'll infuse it in the cream, likewise with basil or tarragon or rosemary. These are all got to be fresh and natural. If we're going to use pistachios, we want Bronte from Sicily. If we're going to use hazelnuts, we want Piedmont, again from Italy. Avola almonds. We want the best ingredients we can get, and that's really paramount to my little business, is in search of the best ingredients. Procuring high quality ingredients is absolutely key. Chocolate, we work with a very small company based in Tuscany. They're called Amade. They're family run. I've been working with them directly now for 10 years. So they'll make various blends that I'll use in my chocolate. They are regarded by many as the best bean-to-bar chocolate maker in the world. All the beans that they procure are all from South America, so Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru. Peru's fantastic for high-quality cocoa beans. And they'll all be the variety of what we call Trinitario and Criollo. So within the chocolate family, although there's thousands of hybrids, there is the Forastero, the Trinitario, and the Criollo. The Forastero is the least, what can I say, you can still make some reasonably good chocolate from it, but the best quality tends to be the Trinitario and the Criollo, and the best quality of them are coming from South. In fact, they only really grow in South America and the Caribbean, and that's where they procure all the beans. So the chocolate they produce for me is sublime, and again, that's key to what we do.
It's the best. This is why I want people to hear these stories, because in every niche, and it doesn't matter whether you're, the farmer kind of growing the cattle on the farm, not all of them, whether you're the chocolatier, whether you've kind of scoured the world and start making your own business, the amount of work and the amount of knowledge that goes on that you can only get from human beings who've dedicated a significant amount of their lives to their thing. But what you then know about, I don't know where to go and get the best almonds or the best nuts or the best chocolate, albeit that I'm learning by doing this podcast, because I'm meeting lots of yous who take everything to a level which is incredible. And I think that's why restaurants are so expensive, because all you've really got to do is get the very best people, find the very best suppliers who really know their shit, who really love what they do. And then what a privilege it is to then, bring all that to one place. And to bring it for the consumer and say, there you go, like, this we've really scoured the world for this. And that's the point of difference between the kind of like these high street kind of big brands and what's really properly going on behind the scenes.
I mean, much of the chocolate market will be bought, the beans will be bought in the futures market, not far from here, in the stock exchange. I mean, chocolate is very, very much a commoditized product, ingredient, if you like. And it really wasn't until the 1980s that a sort of movement of the fine chocolate market started to evolve. And hence, people like myself, people like Pierre Koffmann, Jean-Paul Heaven, they've all came out of that, that new, wave of chocolatiers. That's really where it comes from.
It's exciting. I love the fact that as human beings we can get so bloody anal and passionate and excited about one niche and take it to an absolute extreme, because it would be disappointing, the industrialization of food in the last 50 years. It's just a cycle, and hopefully we'll come out the other side. But I just love the fact that there's enough people who are just taking it to another bonkers level. So thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. You're right. I love the actual, when you really get under the nitty gritty and the whole detail that goes into what we do, whether it's the science, the art, the procuring, it is quite it's quite fulfilling.
It is. It's good. Getting back a little bit then to the business side. So fundamentally, it's got to be a business. It's got to make money, much as we can go off on our adventures and get into the detail and love it and get super passionate, excited. And not everything we do can be about money, but it's got to be there. 2008, you go into partnership with the Rothschild family. So what was the motivation for that? What were they providing at the time?
So I suppose financial support, and I guess an opportunity to take my little shop in Richmond, which by now was going great guns, and I guess taking it to the next level. And taking that, whereas we had, I guess I look back and think, well, that's kind of the dream, kitchen above, the shop underneath. And you can make a little living at it, but it's a little living. Now, I'm actually quite at ease where we are now, and I like where I am now. But, sometimes you've got to try things and go down different routes. And there was an opportunity there that was too good to be true. Sometimes too good to be true, but anyway. But it was an exciting partnership. We set up the business to go, I guess into central London, if you like, where I was on the outskirts in Richmond, and I didn't have the financial clout to go and do that. We opened a beautiful shop with Mr. Rothschild in Belgravia. We opened a fabulous, I guess, production facility in Twickenham, which allowed us to start to supply various hotels, restaurants, set a great website, online business, and we also opened a concession in Harrods. So really I went from being a little shop in Richmond into a much, bigger brand, if you want. And I think in that journey, I evolved as a person, but I think the brand, went to another level, which, I look back at and I think, well, that was good. That was, a fantastic opportunity. Sadly, like all things, we decided that it was best to go different ways about 4 years ago now, 3.5 years ago, yeah.
Okay. Well, still a decent chunk of time, and like you say, took you to another level.
Yeah.
Business partnerships and part of this is, the kind of the business of hospitality. They're quite complicated things or quite complex things. Looking back, is there things you learned that you would do differently that experience taught you, and does that have an impact on how you're moving forwards now?
I think what I learned in the journey that I like to be in charge of what I do. I think for me, I wanted to be William Curley again. And if that was going to be smaller and more niche, I was quite happy doing that. And sometimes, in business, everyone's got different views. And I think that's fine. But I think for me, I knew that I just wanted to be true to what I believe in, making great chocolates and patisserie and just, you know, be myself. And if that was going to be smaller, then so be it. And now I'm much happier with myself, and that's important. And I think Mr. Rothschild's happier too, and I think that's good.
Good. So we've come out in a better place.
We've come out in a better place.
You retained Harrods, and now you're on your. You've kept the website, but and you do some partnerships with various people. But the next thing is the shop, is it? Am I right in thinking that's
absolutely? Yes. So we retained Harrods. I've got a little kitchen now in North Acton. Which I quite like, actually, and it's very up and coming Acton. And
I used to run a swimming pool in Acton another time.
Acton
pools.
I'm having a flashback. It's okay, but it's just a kitchen there, and it works, and it's very easy to get into central London, which is ideal for us. And we've got some great partnerships with hotels, so we do a lot of the amenities and work with Corinthia, the Mandarin Oriental, fabulous hotel. Claridges, the Ritz, Intercontinental. So we've got some great partnerships, and we also do partnerships with Glenmorangie and Laurent Perrier and lots of events, which is fantastic. I'm sitting here today in the Gherkin. We do a few events here. We do a lot of work with the guys at Searcys, which is very, very exciting. In fact, if you come to the Gherkin, you can sample a few of our chocolates that we do. We do a great little Blanc di Criollo. So we talked about Peru earlier on. We get the chocolate from Amity there, and we make a wonderful chocolate for the guys here. Got a little spicy caramel and a little Richmond Park honey chocolate.
And is this on the sort of the pop-up? I don't say pop-up. So pop-up's probably the wrong one. You're in more of a street food thing, but you're only here for a limited period of time.
Well, there's two things here. In fact, there's three things here. We do regular chocolate events with the guys at the Gherkin. Right. We've been doing a chocolate-inspired meal, which will run until sadly till the end of the month, so you could still.
I was going to say it's only a few days. The chances of me getting this podcast out this afternoon, will you do it again at some point?
Yeah, I think we will. It's been great, really successful.
I had a look at the menu last night. It looked delicious. You've got a hint of chocolate in every course.
Absolutely, that's the whole idea, just to get the great world of chocolate out there. And we also have our own little chocolates at the end in the menu here at the Gherkin, and that'll continue hopefully forever and a day. And we've got various chocolates there from the William Curley range that we have, and we've also got a few different chocolates in some of the other Searcys establishments just around the corner at the Barbican. And we've also got chocolates which we have as petit fours, but also we match with champagne at St Pancras.
Okay.
So it's been a great little company to work with, very like-minded. In fact, hopefully in the summer, we're working on a special afternoon tea promotion at Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire.
Nice. That's a nice place to go anyway, let alone if we can come and have your afternoon tea. Yeah. So,
but the most exciting thing, since I have, I guess, relaunched my little self, is I'm opening in the next month or so a new boutique in Soho.
Amazing. Excellent, exciting.
So the work's going on just now, yeah.
Is it? You're literally, in build, are you?
We're in build, yes.
And you crowdfunded that, is that right?
Yes, we crowdfunded it, yes.
Yeah. I've looked at crowdfunding, and I think it's fascinating. I think if one good thing came off the back of the recession, the concept of going to lots of people for a little bit of money rather than one person for a lot of money is a really exciting thing. But how was that journey? Because I understand there was a bit of stress in that as well. Nothing's completely easy when money's concerned.
Yeah, I think the fact that my brand was still in Harrods, and we've kept ourselves out there, if that makes sense. And Harrods has been amazing. I've been in Harrods now for best part of 8 years, and that's been a great relationship. They're very important and fundamental to the William Curley brand. But having my own small boutique, it's key to what I do. My own window, if you like. And during the last 18 months or so, I looked at various different options, different sites. Different ways to raise a little bit of money to do it, because we only need a little bit of money to open up a new boutique. It's not the cheapest thing in the world to do. And we, set our sights on, for various reasons, in Soho. It's on Smith's Court, just off Brewer Street. But of course, to do that, we had to raise a little bit of capital. We have some capital to put in, and we had to raise a little bit more. So I guess in discussions with a good friend of mine, Gary Usher, we decided that we'd have a go at the crowdfunding route. Now, crowdfunding not to lose any equity. That wouldn't be a clever idea, but to give rewards, prizes, etc. So you could have booked I've got 2 this weekend actually, a course for 4 or 5, 6 people with William Curley, a truffle making course at your house. You could have purchased various books of nostalgia was one of the prizes. There's a few talks, demonstrations were some of the prizes, and various things that we did unique for the crowdfund. The special treats, more unique opportunities. We've got a great meal up at Sticky in Chester with Gary and his team at the end of May. We did something with Adam Handling at the Frog in Covent Garden. So we've lots of unique prizes and events that came off the back of that. But of course, when you say we're going to raise £80,000, that's quite a lot of money to raise. And we did it over 4 weeks. The first week was fantastic. It flew along, and I thought, gosh, this is going to do it. We're going to do it. And then it stopped for 2 weeks. Now, I was warned that in the middle of this, it would really slow down. I didn't think it slowed down so dramatically. It virtually comes to a standstill. And the reason being is, in the beginning, people that you know, friends, family, etc., want to give you a leg up. They want to say, look, what about we can get in a shop? That'd be fantastic. So they put a little bit of money in. They'll buy one of the rewards, and you've got that support. But then other people who may be interested, they need to get the word out. You need to build up on the social media. I mean, the campaign was virtually driven through my Twitter account and getting people to retweet and what have you. But you have to get that out. It takes time to generate the masses. And on top of that, and we all do this, you see, how long's that got to go? Oh, it's got another 2 weeks. I'll go back to it in a week's time. And it wasn't really till the last week that it started to go. And then you could just see it every day gaining momentum, and you think, gosh, we're going to get here on this, we're going to get here. And we did finally get there a day before.
The day I was going to say, how close before?
Yeah. We broke it by a few things. We've got 84. So
really?
It helps the shop even more. The money's all went into the shop. We've got a beautiful cabinet that's getting built in Italy with some incredible marble that'll be around it. We've got a great little carpenter who's doing some fabulous shelving. We've used Jonathan Clark, a good friend of mine, to help as an architect, so we get the shop right, and it all looks special.
Sounds like a very small budget to open a shop in Soho. So
it's been done. I think we've done it cleverly, and hopefully it'll excite everyone, and it'll be an amazing little project.
Yeah, good. Well, good luck. And,
Thank you.
So the other part of your career, which still, I was exhausted just reading what you'd done last night, but you've got a number of awards and accreditations. Which is the one that means the most to you?
Gosh, I think the one standout. Now I'm part of an association which is a French association traditionally called Relais des Arts.
Okay.
And it's I don't proclaim to be, but it's the 100 best sort of pastry chefs, chocolatiers in the world who are invited to be part of this organisation. It's mainly French, but there's myself and Alain Roux, who has kind of taken the baton from his father, Michel Roux, who is an MOF in France, and there's various others from Belgium, Spain, Italy, Japan, America, etc., part of this. And we meet twice a year in France to go to seminars, to, I guess, show each other our work, just so we can all keep evolving and learning, because that's what it's all about. However, the most important accolade that I have achieved, and it's not something that I was given, I had to go and earn it, is what we call the Master of Culinary Arts, which is an accolade that comes around, or an award, an examination, I suppose, an examination would be the right word, which comes around every 4 years approximately in the UK, and it's taken from the MOF, the Milieu de France Award in France for patisseries and chocolatiers. And in France, it's been going for over 100 years, and it really does, how would I put it, the best of the best in your profession. It gives you that, how would I put it, the accolade to say that you really know your craft, if you want. You are a true master of your profession. In the UK, it's been going since 1996. To date, there are now 7 people that have achieved this accolade, and I achieved mine in 2013. And it wasn't the first time. It took me 3. It was my 3rd attempt to achieve it.
So 12 years.
12 years in the making.
My
yes,
goodness,
yes.
that's some commitment.
It's tough, and you go through. There's a paper entry initially, and then you have a semi-final, which is a 11-12-hour cook, and it covers all aspects of what we do. So it's really raw cooking. You go in the morning, you basically cook all day. It covers from desserts to petit fours to bakery work, to a small sculpture, an entremet, petit gâteau. It's very, very diverse. Biscuits, cakes. It really, you have to show all of your skills, within this time frame that you understand what you're doing. But that just gets you to the final. And really, the first time I'd done it, I actually failed the semi-final, which, isn't great. You don't feel good when you fail something. But believe me, when you fail a final, it really hurts, because the final takes up, it's like a year of your life.
Wow.
You have to produce a sculpture in sugar and chocolate that you take around a theme. And the theme, when I did it, I based mine, it was about London theatres, and I did mine on the Lion King. So I did a chocolate sculpture with different decorations and skills, all about the Lion King. And then on a day, you've got the best part of a 15-hour cook, where you go through all the skills that I've just talked about previously, from, bakery, cakes, patisserie, chocolate work. You have to produce a small sculpture on the day. It's very, very tight in the time frame to do it. In fact, in the last award, we actually increased the time slightly, but we made it over 2 days, because it was so draining when we did it in 2013. And at the end, every element of what you do has to pass. So if you burn your biscuits, for example, you're in big trouble. You've got to try to find a way around that and solve it. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I've been so proud to achieve anything in my life.
Yeah, that's incredible to do it in any profession, but I think particularly in yours, with that level of detail, and there's no room, there's no margin of error. So I can't imagine the stress of doing that. And you've still got all of your hair, not even a grey hair. So hats off to you. You're ice cool.
Yeah, I've got a few. They're coming through. No, they're there. Believe me, they're coming through. But yeah, I still am very proud of being a Master of Culinary Arts. It means a lot, and I can use the initials MCA, and it's the highest accolade for sure in our country.
No, it's impressive. When I was researching it last night, I thought, wow, that's you deserve your reputation. So well done. You're genuinely good.
Thank you.
And the other one then was a Next Generation Award. So what was that about? Because I know this kind of idea of passing on your skills is important to you.
Absolutely. And I think in what we do, if we don't pass on the baton, there's what we do disappears, if you like. And there's a massive movement in France about, in reality, say you have to have every year an apprentice that comes through your kitchen. That's fundamental. And the French are very, very good at passing the skills and the knowledge on. Obviously in the UK, my profession hasn't evolved in the same way. We come from a different background. In fact, there's many great French pastry chefs, Belgium, Swiss, Germans, Italians that have came here and brought many skills to the UK over the years. But we have got a growing industry here now. There is more people, when they're young, knowing they can become a patissier, becoming a chocolatier. So we actually have this now starting to build and starting to grow. So it's very important for people like myself to help develop and nourish that next generation and help them gain the skills that they'll need to hopefully surpass me and be better. There's nothing more satisfying than what I do, to see someone that's working or worked for me be able to do something better than me. I've obviously trained them well. That's important. So yeah, I think in 2014, we received from the Academy of Chocolate an accolade, for helping develop. And we've developed quite a few, young people. Now the head patissier at Harrods, he worked for me for many years. The head pastry at Pennyhill, Claridges. There's many that have, went through my ranks now that are doing very well for themselves, which is great to see. But we're giving this award, I guess, for our input and our, I guess, determinations to help the next generation, achieve in our profession.
Yeah, that's good. Why do you think it is then, when with the Europe and you mentioned Brussels and France a lot, that they have this kind of this history, I suppose, and this respect and this reputation for food that we don't have here? Why has that come about? And is it genuinely changed? And I was chatting to Simon from the UK Wine the other day about champagne and English sparkling wine, and the fact that now it genuinely is good, whereas it didn't used to be. And actually what we've done really well in the UK is innovate. So whereas in champagne, for example, they're steeped in history and tradition, actually we're a little bit more kind of forward thinking. We don't have the same kind of constraints, I suppose. Is it similar in chocolate? Are we catching up fast, and are we doing anything different? Or
there's a few questions.
There's lots of questions there, so it's a bit of a brain dump. Answer them as you wish.
Well, historically wise, my profession, as we know it, although, of course, people baked and cooked in some form, in medieval times and after that, but in the late 1700s, there was a chap called Marie-Antoine Carême, and he really was the orchestrator of, in fact, on my MCA medal, if you like, there's a picture of him. So he was the founder, the father figure, the man who started my profession and kind of took it to the next level. He put foundation in what we do. He created incredible Piemonte sculptures. He helped create many of the classic dishes that we know today. He really put something in place that was sort of, that was unique. And of course, the French Revolution had just happened. So many chefs had been working in royal establishments, bakers, chefs, patissiers. They then went to the streets and had to make a living. So restaurants started to open, basically in front of someone's house, I suppose it would have been. And so did, there would have been bakeries, of course, but I think there was a higher level brought, maybe more patissiers, etc., etc. And what they were trying to do is they were trying to replicate what they had been doing in these grand houses. And that was the beginning of my profession, if you like, in the patisserie side. And Carême was very much, he was Napoleon's chef at one point. He was very much the orchestrator of that. During the mid-1800s, there was a period which we would call the golden era in patisserie, and many dishes, many chefs, many shops all started to open around Paris and France in general that got that whole journey sort of going. So if you like, I'm not going to say first to market, but they were very much the orchestrators of what we do today, hence why they've got that great tradition and history. Now, of course, we have evolved massively. And that there's no question about that, but we don't have that same sort of starting block. Chocolates, they started mainly in the early part of the 1900s. So a block of chocolate such as
wow,
this.
That's some block of chocolate that's just appeared.
It's
Oh my goodness, it's
big
huge.
block of chocolate. So this didn't appear really till the 1840s. So prior to the 1840s, we were all busy making a chocolate drink. So the likes of Cadbury, Fry and Rowntree, the holy grail then was to make a smooth chocolate drink. But by chance, by luck, we don't really know, Joseph Fry created a tablet of chocolate in the 1840s. And that was the beginning of, I guess, the first chocolate revolution, if you like. And of course, the Industrial Revolution was on, and companies who were making the chocolate drink started to make chocolate bars as well. By the late 1800s, at that point they made dark chocolate, and it probably would have been quite bitter and quite powerful. By the late 1800s, dairy or dairy powder had been added and milk chocolate was created, and likewise white chocolate. That was done in Switzerland. In the early 1900s, chefs, if you like, started to create chocolates, bonbons, pralines, filled chocolates in Belgium, particularly in Brussels. And that was the beginning of the filled chocolate, the chocolatier, if you like. That's where that sort of stems from. And of course, a little bit like the French, with French patisserie, they were very much first to market, and that's where it kind of comes from. So historically wise, both those countries, both those cities in particular, have an incredible history with my profession, hence why they're always got great stories and great foundation in what they do. In the UK, you said something that really sort of links with me. We don't have the same constraints, the same shackles, if you like. What we do and what's happened in London, and I've really been in London, since the whole food sort of, the whole food evolution, if you like, has been incredible. And a lot of that has been down to the fact that we don't have the same history and also the same pressures. So it's okay for me to do a tarragon and mustard chocolate and sell it in my shop. No one's going to get too offended by it. If anything, people quite like to see me pushing my little boundaries out. While I think in France, you could find it a bit more difficult because they are very, very traditional. Now, I love tradition, and I've talked about that. I love being classic in what I do, but I do like to maybe, make things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more exciting sometimes. And I think that's, what makes London in particular so exciting, within the food industry.
I think it's really interesting. I'm a sort of proud Brit, and it's frustrating sometimes our lack of reputation. Not now, but historically, and deservedly so. We had a bad reputation for food and a drink, and were considered to be fairly backwards for it. But it's been fascinating to watch that speed of change and trying to understand it. Like, it's interesting the point you just made there about that lack of constraint. We seem to have this ability to learn fast and to innovate, and particularly with what's going on around Brexit and trying to work out our place in the world. It's nice to know that we've still got.
Came into that,
I managed to get quite a long way without mentioning it, but it's nice to know we can still do it. How heavy is that chocolate you just opened?
That was a 1 kilogram block, yeah.
You heard
and I'll let you taste a little bit in a minute.
It's instantaneously filled the room with this intense kind of chocolate aroma.
Absolutely, and that's real chocolate. That's what it's all about. It doesn't smell sweet. It just has great chocolate aroma. Real full.
And I mean, we're in a reasonably sized room, but it was like instant. It was like, wow, here
first sight. It's escaped. It's escaped.
It has. It's incredible. It smells amazing. I'm glad you said we're going to get to try a bit, although I won't eat the whole kilogram. So now then, you know, like I say, you've worked for so many different chefs. You must have evolved and now you're interested in passing those skills on. What's your style of mentorship, and is it very different to what you went through? Is it a further evolution?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think, you know, when we have a young chef, we want them to get the foundation. I keep using this word, but foundation and what they do. So if you take, you know, broad terms, you know, pastry, dough work, knowing how to laminate, as in puff pastry, or viennoiserie, knowing how to, you know, just to do simple things, line and tartlet cases very, very well, knowing how to make a very good creme patissier, knowing how to make a very good Sabayon base mousse or a cremeux, a rich custard, all these sort of skills, and not just making something once, being able to make these skills over a period and making them as if they're second nature to you, making a very good ganache, knowing how to infuse the creams for the chocolates, making a good caramel so it isn't too sweet, but it's got that kind of rich, full flavour. I think I just want young people, or any age, that work for me to master those base skills, and then when they have those skills in place, it gives them the foundation to, you know, to go, you know, whether it's working with me to have more input in what we do, or they go to the, you know, the next stage of their career. But I think how I was taught, I still, I guess, try to keep that sort of structure. I quite like how I was taught. I like the pillars of what we do. I try not to step too far out of that. I like a good classic foundation, and I like young people, just to grasp those skills.
Yeah, it's good to know that they are being handed on, because I think there's so much this huge growth in the casual dining sector where all too often you just get thrown in as a cook more than a chef, and you never go through that classic training, and you think you're a chef and you're called a chef, and hats off, they're working hard and they're producing food, but it concerns me that so many now don't go through that traditional route into the kitchen.
And getting the base in their work.
Really understanding where food comes from and that history of food, which is why hopefully conversations like this inspire people to do it. So which part of your job now gives you the most pleasure?
I would say, well, there's various things. I mean, I think fundamentally my customers being happy. There's nothing nicer when you get feedback, whether it's in the store or they've written to you saying that they loved the Easter egg that you did this year, or thank you so much for the chocolates we had last week, they were amazing, we loved the birthday cake, whatever. I think that is satisfying, and particularly people take the time to write to you. I like that a lot. I can't deny that. I think that makes me feel good that my customers are happy, and that knows we're doing the right things. And I guess also seeing young people evolve and go to that next stage, that makes me feel good too. I mean, I think what I do, I try to be broad and you know, look at it on the big scale. And having a happy team is important. You know, I worked in restaurants where I'd see people come, many would come after 3-4 months and move to the next one, and you had a continuous cycle of people coming and going. That's not good. You know, I'd rather people were steady, evolved. I don't want to say take the time, but you know, learn at a pace that works for everyone, and then, you know, we get the benefit of that. That's kind of key, and I think seeing someone go through that whole journey, it's satisfying.
Yeah, nice. It's funny how we get this amazing, you know, they say it's better to give than receive, but so commonly the answer to that question is in hospitality is that we just really like to give other people pleasure and to see them light up, and hospitality so often is around time as well as taste and flavour. So often people with you, they might be sharing those chocolates or sharing a cake, I suppose, and it's that time with family or maybe time with the kids where you're giving them their Easter eggs and stuff like that. But food is such a nostalgic way of creating these memories and life experiences, I think.
I mean, food, you think about times in life and you've done something special, and more often than not, food has been around, whether you've went to a great restaurant with your wife, partner, friends, whatever, and it's an incredible evening around a table, whether it's friends coming over, and whether you go away on a holiday somewhere, but I'm sure when you go away somewhere, there'll be an evening or an afternoon where you went for lunch or dinner somewhere, and that plays a massive impact into it. I think food, we shouldn't underestimate the power of food, the table. It's an incredible part of our lives, and even I've got 2 young daughters, and for me, I try as much as I can to at least have one meal a day around the table, whether it's breakfast or dinner. I always try to have that bit of time so we can, chat. I try to have no mobile phones, no tablets, no television. Bit of music's okay, but just, because I think as a special, it's a very special, part of the day.
Definitely, yeah. I drive my wife bonkers because even if it's just dinner at home with the kids, I still music on, some candles, ambient, maybe light the fire.
But that's hospitality, isn't it? And you can make something. Marco said something to me so many years ago. It still resonates with me today. He said, "Would you like a coffee?" I said, "Love a coffee, Marco, please, thank you." You've called Marco. And not chef, you've called Marco. And I said, "I'll just have a plastic cup, whatever." He said, "William, no. Have the coffee in beautiful China." And it's true, and it goes, "It will taste better." And it does. There's something incredible about it, just when it's all,
Yeah, because so much of it is around how we feel. This is the art of the restaurateur, and why it's not always the case with chefs, because sometimes it's always just about the food, but it's how we feel when we're eating that food as well, and the lighting and the music.
Massive.
So yeah, my wife doesn't get it, and she's a bit more of a sort of a plonk the food on the plate, whereas I can't help myself but place it up and present it. I'll make the kids beans on toast, and it's still got a little finesse to it,
And parsley on the beans.
Yeah, just can't help it.
But there's something nice about that. I mean, it does come. I think my grandmother and my dad used to cook. He didn't do bakery, but my father used to make great stews. Sort of my mother. They all cooked their own food. I mean, I came from that generation. There wasn't a ready meal was something I didn't actually realise it really existed until I was older in life. Going to the supermarket and buying something you put in the microwave. And what was that about? They cooked their own food, and it does kind of come from the heart. There's something very real and raw about that.
Yeah, and that speed of change with convenience food in the last 20, 30 years has been bonkers. With all of the non we're coming to the end, but with all of that experience you've got now, and I think there's a lot of people I'm sure come to you, they'll listen to this and they'll hopefully be inspired to get into the industry, or more and more people seem to be wanting to go into hospitality as a job. It's funny being up here in London, and I just spent the last couple of hours walking around, and I used to live in London, and it reminded me of this, of all the suits and how grateful I am, I suppose, that I don't work in a bank. But I know a lot of people up here, nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot of people who kind of leave banks and go into baking or do something else. But business advice wise, on that, knowing that so many hospitality businesses fail, is there any business advice that you hear where you go, that's nonsense, that's from an academic book? Or is there anything you hear that's really good where you'd say, ignore that, do that?
I mean, probably if I went into a business course, I actually had a great friend of mine. He worked at the Gavroche. He worked with Marco with me, and he actually trained at Gleneagles when we were younger. And his plan was to open his own restaurant. He now works for a big company as a new product developer. And I remember saying to him, "Why did you not ever open your own restaurant?" He goes, "Because I went to business school. And after I went to business school, I realised the risks, the complexities, it was just too much. And I wasn't willing to do that." And I suppose sometimes I think if your heart's in something and you want to do it, you should do it. I think you can get advice from people, and I think you can buy books and do courses as much as you want, but ultimately, you'll only be a success if you put in, with your heart on your sleeve. You'll know this yourself. You've got to be very determined. A good accountant probably helps to make sure you've got your margins right and you've got your projections right. I think that is fundamentally key. But it's all about what you're willing to put into it. You've got to put all your energy into it. And if you can energise yourself, your team will more than likely follow the way you are. And that's, for me, it's all about energy. It's all about what you're going to put into it.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer. And you're right. Restaurants have got too many moving parts, too much complexity, tight margins. So the first advice is don't do it. But then if you're going to do it, you've got to love it. And it's got to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do what I do unless I loved what I do. I mean, I don't think you could.
The shop in Soho. And then what else? What's on the agenda then for the next couple of years?
Do you plan that far ahead? I think I probably don't want that far ahead. I think for me, the shop in Soho is kind of everything. That's what I've put the last sort of 3 years into. So I'm incredibly excited about that, and I don't plan to open a string of shops. You can never say never, but my plan very much is Soho to be the front, the flagship of the William Curley brand. So, Harrods is there, which is fantastic, but the own personal little shop that's going to be Soho, and I like working with other brands, so Searcys, Laurent Perrier, Gleneagles. That's important for me. So doing promotions, doing events with those guys. That's probably the other sort of projects that I'll continue to work on.
Yeah. So do you still get in the kitchen in that way then? Because I imagine the opportunity, it seems like the ideal scenario where you've got your own boutique where you can really show off what you want to get excited about, but a lot of chefs miss being in the kitchen. So do you still get to get in the kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, we have at the moment, we've got 6 chefs with me in the kitchen, and 2 of them, in fact, I guess 3 now, have been with me for over 2.5, 3 years, and 2 have been with me for over 5. So I've got great, experience there. So I can trust, my team to, do the good work of what the brand's about. But no, I'm there a lot. I'm there virtually every day, one way or the other. In fact, after here, I'm going back to the kitchen. So I think I do what I do to be around what I do, if that makes sense. I want to be part of what I do. I still want to make chocolates and cakes. That's fundamental to me. Hence why I guess I am back where I am, I suppose. Yes.
Yeah, good. Well, congratulations. So where do people go to find out more then? Where can they go, A, to buy your chocolate, but B, just to follow your journey and what you do?
So you can obviously go to my website, just williamcurley.co.uk. That will give you all the information. If you're in central London, you can either go to Harrods, to our concession, or you can go in the next month or so to our new shop in Soho, which is on Smith's Court, just off Brewer Street in Soho, a 90-second walk from Piccadilly Circus.
Amazing. That's an awesome location.
Great location,
no actual open date yet? Or?
I'm hoping. I've been asked. I've been asked this once. I've been asked this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
The idea was by the end of May, but the builder will actually be. The shop will be complete, but we're getting a bespoke cabinet made, and it comes from Italy.
Right.
And the Italians just basically had 2 weeks off at Easter,
of
and they're now just getting back into it now.
Goes off, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I'm still hoping end of May, but I think realistically, I think we're looking at the end of the first, beginning of the second week in June. I'm just being. I'm not going to accept that just now, and believe me,
don't
I want
worry,
to
this won't go out. So the builders say, I'm in the process of building a restaurant at the moment. We're due to open in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because people keep saying the same thing. What's the opening date? What's the opening date? And I've got 2. I've got one that I'm telling the building crew, and then I've got one that I'm telling the public, because I know they're not going to match. Because the building crew are going to go over,
it's hard,
and the customers are going to want to come in early, and you just go, look, I can't go out. So we just say mid-May, and this will probably go out after that anyway. But by the time this goes live, hopefully your shop will be open. My new restaurant will be open.
and the world will be good.
Yeah, but the world will be good. And here we are. We're practically on top of the world. We're on top of the city of London. So, William, thanks for spending the time. It's been really good to chat. Really good to hear your story. I'm going to watch it with intrigue to see where you go next. But you've achieved so much already.
That's
so
very kind.
Thank you for sparing
the time.
I really
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cheers. So there you have it. You have reached the end of another episode of the Humans of Hospitality podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please go and visit our website, humansofhospitality.co.uk, for the show notes and extra episodes and information. And whilst you're there, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and to receive free materials all about the humans behind our incredible industry. Lastly, if you could subscribe, rate and review this podcast, you will be massively helping me out, and it would be hugely appreciated. Thank you so much. We'll be launching another podcast in just 7 days' time. Cheers.